Today we're going to start a project that's going to walk you through some steps that have you really practicing some foundational skills in Photoshop. And when you nail these down, it's going to make you feel a lot more comfortable working in the program so that you're kind of in this muscle memory phase when you're working on bigger projects and more complex things. You remember how to do these steps very easily. So we are going to start by, well, first let's look at what a finished product might look like. So we're going to be doing what's called a Polaroid collage. So these squares are kind of meant to look like Polaroid pictures, and they are all placed together, and then they're composited together to create this one single image. Now, this is not quite as easy as it looks because we can't simply mask this flower to any particular one box, or it just goes in the one box. So you have to repeatedly mask it and place the boxes strategically. So let's take a look at how we're going to do this. We're going to start, this is the desktop Photoshop version. So if your screen does not look like my screen, you're probably in the online version. So double check and make sure you're using the right video and software combination. We're going to start by clicking New File. And we're going to work with more of a square sized template today. So let's go ahead and choose, let's say 8 by 8. Okay. And click Create. So one of the reasons I chose a square was just so you could feel how it's kind of different to build within the constraints of a square shape versus a rectangle. A lot of times we build in those rectangle canvases. So we're working with a different base shape today. So the first thing we want to do, because the background of all of our Polaroids is going to need to be white, we need to go ahead and establish a background layer so that we have some type of color that contrasts our Polaroid image. So I'm going to come up here to Layer and click New Fill Layer. And at this point, it doesn't really matter what you put there. I'm going to choose put a solid color. All right, and it can really be any color. I don't really recommend black. I'm going to just choose a lighter color that'll still allow me to see my picture, and I'm going to click OK. Now we need to start adding in some elements. So when we look at this image, we can see that there's lots of shapes involved. Now, in every Polaroid picture, there's actually two shapes. There's the white, larger rectangle, and then there is the square in the middle that has the picture. So we need to create a series of rectangles and squares to create the overall shape of our Polaroid collage. So I'm going to come into Photoshop and I'm going to click on the rectangle square shape tool. And just so it's easier, I'm going to go ahead and click up here where it says fill, and I'm going to select white so that when I draw my rectangle, it's white. Okay. So you're going to kind of play around with this and figure out exactly how you want your Polaroids to look. If you want them perfectly square, if you want them a little bit longer, how big you want the square. This is all designer choice. So you can kind of gauge how you want yours to look, how much white space you'd like. The most important thing is that you're going to need to duplicate the shapes once you establish the way that you want it to look so that they're all uniform and the same size. So I'm going to kind of go with this for starters. Okay. Now, since we're going to be working with a lot of layers in this project, we want to name all of our layers as we go. So I'm going to come over here to this first rectangle, and I'm going to call this W1 because that's my first white rectangle. All right, I'm going to grab my shape tool again, and this time I'm going to change the fill to black. You can change it to any color that you want. Oops, I don't want to change that fill. Okay. I'm going to change the fill to black, and then I am going to come over here and I'm going to start drawing in kind of a square shape for my Polaroid. Now you could go square, you could go rectangle, you can go a little bit of white at the bottom, you can go more white at the bottom. Again, this is designer's choice, so you have to kind of gauge the feel that you want for your particular project. Okay. Now, this is strange, right? How come if I chose a black square and it's black over here, it's white over here? Think about it. It is because in our layer list, this black rectangle is under the white rectangle. So if I pull it up to the top, then I can see that it is now on top of my white rectangle. I'm going to go ahead and name this B1. Okay. So we have our first white rectangle shape and our first black rectangle shape. And if we kind of look at this, it does look a bit like a Polaroid picture. Now, before we can begin to add in our actual image, we need to go ahead and map out all of the Polaroids that you're going to have on this collage. So what we're going to do is we're going to group these together, and we're going to group them by clicking on one layer and then clicking on the next layer. Now, actually, I'm going to take that back. We're not going to group them together because later on you'll understand why, but I am going to go ahead and highlight both of them. So I want to talk about how I just did that. So in order to pick up multiple layers next to each other, I clicked on the first layer that I wanted. I held the Shift key and I clicked on the next layer. So now they're both highlighted blue. I am going to Control click or right click on both layers. Oops, I apologize. Okay, and I'm going to click duplicate layers. I'm going to click OK. And it looks like nothing happened, but I'm going to come over here and get my move tool. And if I drag it to the side, I can see I actually now have two Polaroid pictures. Okay. Now I don't want everything like super straight like it is right now. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of start rotating a little bit and letting these overlap. I think I'm going to come back down to this original set and do Command T to transform and rotate that one just a little bit as well. Okay. You can move these as many times as you want in this process because it's all about making it look like what you want it to look like. Now over here it says B1 copy and W1 copy. We're going to go ahead and double click those and change those names. This is going to help us stay organized when we have so many layers and so many shapes. Now there's going to be a lot of step repeating in this project. So I'm going to go ahead and click on W2, hold the Shift key and click on B2. I'm going to Control click or right click on those layers, duplicate layers. Okay. I'm going to come over here, pick them up and drag them over. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of give them a little rotation. I'm going to pull this one up here. Okay. I'm going to hit enter to put them down. I'm going to go ahead and change my names. W3, B3. And we're going to just keep repeating this process. And I'm going to walk you through step by step. So if you want to fast forward because you understand how to do this, that's fine. But this is the repetitive pattern that's going to build these skills. So click on one layer, hold the Shift key, click on the next layer, and another option is you can use the shortcuts. Instead of right clicking, if you highlight these layers, you can hit Control C as in copy, and then Control V as in Victor, not P as in paste. Control P is print. We're going to use Control V, and then we're going to move this one, kind of situate it how we want it. If you're going off the page a little bit, that's totally fine. Okay. I'll show you how to move all of them at the end in just a second. Let's go ahead and change the name because we already have a W3. This is a W4 and a B4. I'm going to click, Shift, click, Control C, Control V as in Victor. I'm going to go ahead and put this one on this side. Tilt it this way. Change this to W5, B5. Again, click on this layer, Shift, click on this layer, Control C, Control V, and rotate. Okay, and then I'm going to change this to W6 and B6. I'm going to do this one more time. Click, shift, click, Control C, Control V. And I'm going to drop this one right here, kind of coming off the screen, and you'll see why in just a minute. Now, what you want to try to not have is these gaps right here where you can see the colors coming through. Oh, I forgot. Change it. W7, B7. So I am going to make sure I'm on my move tool, and I'm going to come back down, and I'm going to locate that layer, which is actually our 6s, it looks like. Yep. So I'm going to grab B6 and W6 and Command T to transform, and I'm going to pull those up a little bit. Now it seems like it's not this middle one that's the problem, it's the ones on the side. So this is what I was talking about with there's going to be some editing that you have to do to make this your own. This is, remember, you're using it like an artistic medium. Oops, I didn't get my black one, so let me go back. So W5, B5, Command T, pull that in just a bit, close that gap, hit return to put it down, and I believe this is 4, B4, Shift, W4, Command T, pull that in just a bit, okay? Now, you've got your Polaroids down, okay? If you look at the example has 8, I believe, okay? Maybe it's only 7. Nope, it's 8. 8 in the example. I have 7 on mine. It really is your choice because it's your design, okay? So we have all these layers, okay? What we're gonna do now is add in our picture, okay? So the picture that you're using should be a picture that you have taken. And this particular type of picture, you want it to be a picture where the subject is taking up the majority of your frame. You want a nice up-close picture of whatever you're taking a picture of, whether that's a person, an animal, a flower, an object. You want it to fill most of the frame. So I am going to use a picture of this daisy, okay? Now I dropped it in and it's all in the middle of all of this stuff, and that's okay because I can come over here in my layers, I can find it, and I'm gonna pull it, click, hold, drag all the way up to the top. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to make this picture big enough to cover all of the Polaroids. Now to do that, I'm gonna lower the opacity just a bit so I can kind of see the Polaroids behind my picture. Doing this is gonna make part of the picture go off the page, and that's okay. That's probably a little too big. It got away from me. Let's bring it back. What you don't want to have is any black gaps left over here where the picture is not fully taking up space. So I'm gonna rotate a little bit because I want to try to get that stem in there. And I'm gonna kind of just move it around till I find the spot that I like. Okay, so I think right there. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and bring the opacity all the way back up. Now it is covering all of my Polaroids, and that's okay. What we're gonna do is click the little eyeball next to the flower. I'm gonna go ahead and call this flower, okay? We're gonna click the little eyeball to turn it off. Now we didn't delete it, we just hid it, so we can't see it right now. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna practice that copy and paste or duplicate copy step again, okay? We need another flower. So you can either hit Control C, Control V, or you can right click and click duplicate layer. Now, when we do that, we can't see anything because both layers are turned off. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna click, hold, and drag this flower all the way to right above our first black box. So right above B1. Once it's above B1, I'm going to turn the eyeball back on so I can see it. Kind of, it's behind everything. And then I'm going to right click or control click on the flower, and I'm going to choose Create Clipping Mask. And when I do that, you can see that the flower clips into this Polaroid. We can only see the portion of the flower that was right there on that section of Polaroid. Now, here is the most important thing. You have to use the exact same picture, the exact same size, the exact same position. You cannot move your subject picture anywhere or it will not line up correctly. Okay? So I'm going to go back up to my very top flower that I have shut off right now. I'm going to copy and paste that again. So I'm going to control click or right click. I'm going to click duplicate layer. Okay. Grab my copy, and now I'm going to go down to right above B2. There's B2. I'm going to turn it back on. I am going to right click, create clipping mask. So now we can start to see the shape of the flower come together. And now we're going to do that step over and over until we fill all 7 pictures. Come back up to the top layer, duplicate layer, click and drag to above B3. There's B3. Turn the layer on, right click, create clipping mask. Again to the top, right click, duplicate layer, drag it to B4, turn the flower picture on, right click, create clipping mask. Go back to the top, duplicate layer, drag it to B5, right above B5, turn on the layer, right click, create clipping mask. To the top, duplicate layer, drag it to above B6. I went too far. Turn the layer on, right click, create clipping mask. Now on our very last layer, we already have a layer directly above B7, so we do not need to duplicate it again. We're going to turn the layer on, right click, create clipping mask. And now you have your collage of your subject. So this is why you want the picture that you're going to use for this. It should not be a stock image. It should be a picture that you take. You want the subject of your picture to really fill the space because it's going to be broken up. So we want it nice and big and clean and crisp so that we can really see the image that you're creating. Okay. Now I'm looking at this and I'm saying, you know what, this feels a little lopsided. It seems like it's further off on the right side of the picture than it is on the left side of the picture. More is hanging off the bottom than the top. So I want to adjust everything at one time. So I'm going to come over here to my layers. I am going to click the top layer, which is a flower layer. I'm going to hold the shift button and go all the way down to W1. So while holding the shift button, click W1. Now it's got everything. And I'm going to hit Command T to transform. And I'm going to move and adjust the whole page together at one time. Let's see. I like that a little bit better. I'm going to hit enter to put it down. Now, once you have your picture in there, if you decide you want a different color background, you can come down here to our color fill layer. You can double click and you can change the background, or you could even come over here and click layer, new fill layer, gradient. Okay. We can go in here to our presets and choose one that we like. Okay. And then you have your finished Polaroid project. Remember to save, you come up here to file and you're going to save it initially as a PSD file because that saves it as a Photoshop file. But when you are ready to turn it in to Schoology, you need to click save a copy, give it a name, choose a location to save, and then change it to JPEG. Save your work and upload it to your Schoology assignment. Good luck.